So there is one thing that I feel like nobody ever really talks about when it comes to high ticket sales that is incredibly important. It kind of goes under the rug, it flies under the radar, and it probably accounts for around 70 to 80% of the reason why you are actually going to close your deals in the first place. And that thing is not scripts, it's not frameworks, it's not you using particular soft skills or even any technical understanding of sales as a whole. It's your mindset. If you don't have the right mindset as a business owner or even as a closer, you are not going to close deals. If you get in your head about the fact that you're jumping onto a high ticket sales call and you're going to speak to a complete stranger for 30 minutes to an hour and convince them to buy something that costs anywhere between 3 to 10k, and that makes you feel a little bit weird, like that's strange, obviously you're not going to close. And so this is going to be the topic of conversation for today, because I think that it's super important that you guys are able to wrap your heads around this, and ironically, no pun intended, so that you can increase your close rates and start making more money. Now, funnily enough, there is a whole nother layer to this before we can even really get into the mindset side of things. And it all actually starts with product. And again, this is something that I learned from watching Charlie scale Easy Grow. Is he was obsessed. Like, I cannot begin to explain to you. He was obsessed. He still is obsessed with ensuring that the product is exceptional. And even when I was developing out my own product, having seen what that did for him, what that did for the sales reps, what that did for the appointment setters, what that did for the client success team, I realized, yes, okay, cool. I need to go all in on making sure that the product is exceptional, that my expertise, that my specialism, that my understanding of sales is, it goes above and beyond what anybody has ever experienced before, because I know that that in turn is going to help me to scale everything else. But obviously we're not here to talk about appointment booking or client success. We're here to talk about the sales side of things. And the reason why you having an exceptional product and a good track record when it comes to your service delivery is so important in the context of sales is because it gives you conviction. And conviction is honestly the most important piece of sales. You could be an exceptional salesperson, and as long as you have got ethics and morals, if you are selling a product that you don't believe in, even if you're great at sales, even if you have a ton of technical ability, you're not going to close because you're going to feel bad about it. Okay, so that's the first thing that you guys need to try and sort out. Obviously, I know when you're starting off, it's a little bit difficult. Make sure that your product is good. Now, diving back into how all of this relates to the sales piece, the reason why having conviction and belief in the product is so important is because if you can get that right, and then you can get this next step right, if you can just do those two things, I promise you, if you fully understand this, you'll increase your sales conversion rate by like 5-10%. The next step is, instead of focusing on actually closing the deal, the thing that you want to focus on is actually just helping the prospect. That needs to be your sole focus when you're jumping onto these calls. And so if your perspective, if your mindset right now is, oh, when I'm jumping onto these calls, like the core objective, the core goal that I have is just to make money, I do understand that, because obviously you're working hard, you're spending all of this time, you're working till late at night to grow the business, and obviously the ultimate objective is to make money. But when you're on the calls, your focus has to be on actually helping the prospect. Part of the reason is because it will help you to be a lot more authentic on the calls. And a lot of prospects that you speak to, especially if you're working in industries where it's likely that your prospects have had bad experiences, which is going to be the case for a lot of you guys who are doing lead generation, paid ads, things along those lines, who are just generally in the agency space, that authenticity counts for a lot, because you need to build trust. Because a lot of the salespeople, a lot of the business owners that the prospects will have come across in the past, they will have just told them whatever they need to tell them to get them across the line. And so if they've seen that in the past, they're going to be less likely to trust you. And so if you're able to just focus on keeping the prospect's best intentions at heart, it's going to put you in a position where it's a lot easier for you to get deals across the line. Now, the other thing is, on your side of things, it also helps to relieve a lot of pressure, because if you're going into the call and you're putting all of this pressure onto yourself of, I need to close, like I'm spending money on booking appointments, I'm spending all of this time on booking appointments, if I don't close this deal, like the business is done, it's going to completely change the way that you show up. In the same way, say for example, if you're talking to a girl or going on a date with a girl and you've got to the stage where you're idolizing her and you think that she's like the most incredible thing on the planet, you're not going to be able to be yourself. You're going to change who you are. You're going to change the way that you're having conversations. You're going to laugh when you're not supposed to laugh, and you're going to come across as fake. And so she's going to pick up on that in the same way that the prospect is going to pick up on it when you're being faked. But by just relaxing into, my core objective right now is to actually help the prospect, it takes that pressure off. And again, if you have that belief in your product that it's actually going to deliver results, it becomes a pretty straightforward process for you to actually get people across the line. So another thing that you want to focus on prior to getting onto the call is approaching the call with non-judgment. Now this, it can be a little bit of a trap if you've had a streak of calls where you're dealing with prospects who are unqualified, maybe they don't have the money, or perhaps you're jumping onto calls where people just are not supposed to be there in the first place, like they're looking for the completely wrong service. But if you're carrying that energy onto the calls and you're thinking, oh, this person is not going to close because of X, Y, and Z reason, you're not going to give the right level of effort that you're supposed to when you're pitching. You're not going to be paying attention in the line of questioning and actually engaging in active listening, which is going to affect your ability to engage in strategic questioning and deductive reasoning to actually get to what the truth is. So it's really important prior to you jumping onto your high ticket sales calls that you're going into each call that you take with a completely clear slate. And I get it that can be difficult. There's certain things that you can do that will help you on this front. Yes, it will get a lot easier as time goes by and you get more experience. But one of the key things that I would advocate for is, if you have the time, and realistically, even if you don't have the time, make the time, just sit in your room, sit in your office, sit wherever it is that you're sitting for 5 minutes before the call and meditate or pray or do something where you're going to calm your mind. And that doesn't mean scrolling on TikTok or watching Instagram or YouTube videos. It's just center yourself, okay? Like, set the intention for the call. This is something that I did before I took every single call for like the first 2 months when I was initially closing for Charlie, especially when I would have a bad call, when I was dealing with someone who was rude, they were pissing me off. What I would do when I had the opportunity is I would go for a walk. And I'm not talking about a quick walk. I'm literally talking about stepping outside of my house, looping around the block for sometimes as little as 3 minutes. But when I'm doing that, I'm being intentional to listen to what is going on. Can I hear the wind? Can I hear the sound of the leaves rustling in the trees? Can I hear the birds? Can I feel the warmth of the sun on my skin? I'm taking myself out of the past and I'm putting myself into the present moment so that when I jump onto the call in the future, I'm able to do so in a clean, clear, emotional state. So this is something I promise you, if you're able to do, is also going to massively help you with the mindset piece if you are finding that a lot of the time you're jumping onto the calls with judgment. So there's another part of this, which may be that you're not jumping onto the call with judgment, but instead that you're jumping onto the call with nerves. And that's affecting your mindset because you feel like you're not able to perform in the way that you want to because you're anxious and you're scared about how the prospect is going to perceive you. Are they going to like you? Are they going to give you pushback on certain questions? Do you know how to go about handling certain objections? I get it. Like, I really do get it. Like, sales can be very intimidating, especially when there is a lot of money on the line. And especially when sometimes that money that's going to come in is going to be life-changing for you, or at least put you in the position where the business is going to be able to tick over for the next month or whatever it might be, right? But one of the best tactics that I came up with when I was closing for Charlie, and especially in those early days when I was feeling nervous, was to look at sales like it was sports, or to look at sales like a high pressure situation. So for any of you who have played sports at a reasonably competitive level, or for any of you who've been a musician, right, and you've had to perform on a stage, or an actor and you've had to perform on a stage, or any situation where you're under intense pressure, you'll recognize that you get a similar rush of emotions. Now, if you were good at the sport you were playing, or, as an artist or whatever it was, I'm pretty certain that you didn't look at those emotions in a negative light, right? Like you would look at them from the perspective of all of this is here to actually help me to perform better. Let's say, for example, you were playing football, right? You get that rush of adrenaline before the match starts, and that is absolutely fine. But it's then what you decide to do with it. Do you allow it to turn into anxiety, or do you allow it to turn into a vehicle to help you to perform better? Just before the match starts, I'm guessing you're feeling pumped up, you're ready to go. It's going to help you to run faster. It's going to help you to be more focused. It's going to help you to be more locked in so that you can tackle, shoot, dribble, pass, whatever it might be, better. It's the same thing. I promise you, it's the same thing when you're jumping onto your high ticket sales calls. And the key thing is just lean into those past experiences, especially if you have them, to make that mental shift, to have that shift into perspective, to see that when you're jumping onto the calls, that rush of emotions is going to help you to perform better. To give you some examples, if you are in that state of being a little bit anxious and having adrenaline rushing, it means you're hyper aware. And in being hyper aware, if you lean into that, when the prospect is speaking, you're going to focus on everything that they're saying. It's going to enable you to be more detail orientated, and it's going to enable you to pick up on things that potentially you might have missed. Another thing, say for example, when it comes to the pitch, is when you're pitching, if you're able to transmute those emotions, to turn those emotions from a state of anxiety into a state of passion, you will convey more conviction when you are pitching. And again, I've spoken about this before. When you are pitching to your prospects and when you are taking sales calls, sales is all about the transference of emotion. So the more emotion that you have, as long as you are channeling it in the right way, the easier it's going to be for you to close. The easier it's going to be for the prospect to feel the level of conviction, to feel the hunger that you have to actually help them to get to where they want to be. And when it comes to the objection handling side of things, it's going to give you that fighting spirit. It's going to put you in the position where you're not going to break frame as easily, because you know that you're working towards a clear objective on the sales call. So another thing that will help you as well, and this is kind of just looping back to this topic at the top of being client focused, and I'm a massive advocate for this. I genuinely believe that this perspective, this mind state of putting the client first is the most important thing in sales. But another reason why this will help you if you are able to adopt this mindset is because it will enable you to ask the difficult questions, right? Because sometimes it is a little bit awkward when you're asking somebody, how much money do you make? Or, you know, what happens if you don't fix this problem in your business, when you know realistically the answer is, I'm fucked. Like, if I don't fix this problem in my business, the business is done. Maybe sometimes it's not going to be that terrible for the business owner, but some of these questions are difficult. Objection handling phase, for example, the prospect says, hey, this is a little bit too expensive for me. You want to do a financial audit, and you're asking them, well, obviously not in these exact words, but how much money do you have to your name? How much money do you have in your bank account? How much money do you have available in your credit card? These are super sensitive questions, guys. Like, I get it. You're right to feel like that's awkward. But the key thing when it comes to putting the prospect first and being client orientated and prospect focused is it allows you to show up to the call with a sense of tough love. It allows you to adopt the role of the big brother, right? Because you recognize that even though in the short term, sure, it may cause a little bit of pain to ask some of these questions and get the prospect to open up and reveal what their concerns are around X, Y, and Z. You understand that because you believe in what you were doing and the fact that you're actually going to be able to help them to get to where they want to go, that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Right? Because I would rather jump onto a sales call with somebody and someone dislike me for whatever period of time we're on the call, or because I'm asking them difficult questions or asking them to face things that perhaps they haven't faced. But as a result of that, me doing that and taking them through that process, that ultimately it gets them to where they want to be in life. Right? And again, this whole concept of if you can just focus on that outcome, don't worry about the money, don't worry about what's coming into you. I know that it sounds so backwards, but I promise it works. It even works, say, for example, when it comes to you being in a sales rut, right? Like if you're obsessing over the fact that, I haven't closed in a week or 2 weeks, or I haven't brought in enough cash, or whatever it might be, when you're jumping onto these calls, if you're putting all of that pressure, that commission breath onto the prospect, again, it's not going to work to your advantage, because people are not stupid. People forget that sales is just communication. Sales is no different than what you do every single day when you're speaking to your partner, when you're speaking to your friends, when you're speaking to your family. You are just communicating, and people are very good at picking up on human behavior. It's literally what we do all day, every single day. It's literally what we are wired for from a biological perspective, to make sure that we're making the right decisions. Is this person risky? Is this person trustworthy? And if you're not approaching the call from the right lens, again, it's going to put you in a position where you're not able to close. Now, the last thing that I want to discuss with you when it comes to the mindset piece, there is a lot more than this. And obviously, if you want to learn a lot more and you realize, hey, Jack seems like he knows a fair bit about sales, from closing millions of dollars in deals and taking tons of sales calls, and you want me to literally just help you to get to where you want to be, obviously you can book a call. If you don't want to book a call, you don't have to book a call. But if you do book a call, telling you now, you will make more money. Okay, like just being honest with you, I've spent enough time working with clients, agency owners, info product owners, coaches, etc., to tell you for a fact you will make more money. Kind of coming back to the product thing, right? But the very last thing is, mindset isn't always related to what you are doing on the call. Mindset in sales is not always related to what you are doing in sales as a whole as well. I see this a lot of the time, more so with closers than business owners, but I see this a lot of the time where people get themselves stuck in just working and working and working and working. You're doing 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, and you're not making any time for yourself. You have to. I know. Everybody in this space is talking about hustle, run yourself into the ground, push yourself to the point where you're burnt out. I do not advocate for that at all. There are seasons for it. There are periods of time where, yes, you should sprint, you should push, but that should not be your de facto modus operandi. Like, you cannot operate on that level where you're not living, right? And the key point that I'm making with all of this is, again, it comes back to sales is a transference of emotion. And so if you are jumping onto your sales calls and you are not happy because you do not like how your life looks, because you are not spending enough time socializing with people who are close to you, because you're sacrificing everything for the sake of your goal, you're not going to close as effectively as if you just took a little bit of time, right? It could be late night on a Thursday, you're just going and grabbing dinner or grabbing a drink with a friend. It could just be you taking some time over the weekend to chill with your mum, to chill with your dad, to chill with your best friends. It's so important. Don't lose sight of why you are doing all of this in the first place. Now, I know that a lot of you probably think it's just for the sake of money, and probably for a lot of you, it probably is just for the sake of money. But at the end of the day, I'm also pretty sure the reason why you want to have that money is so that you have freedom. And the reason why you want to have that freedom is so that you have control. And the reason why you want to have that control is so that you can control your time, right? And if you've managed to get yourself into a position where you're doing pretty well, like you're making 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30K, but you're not also enjoying the fruits of your labor, you're not celebrating your successes, you're not taking time to be inspired and inspire yourself and see a material representation of the progress that you're making, you're going to sound depressed when you're jumping on your calls. And that's going to make it really difficult to close to. But look, those are just some high-level insights into the mindset piece. I hope you found a lot of value from this video. As I said, if you want to book a call and for me to literally help you on a one-on-one basis to like 3, 4, 5x your revenue in the space of 90 to 180 days, there is a link. You can book a call if you want to. Again, you don't have to. If you found value in this video, you can follow me. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And if you want to like the video, you can like the video. But again, if you don't want to, then don't. See you in a bit.